Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the latter of which, according to our metrics, is 94% of you, to another episode of the National Curriculum, the video/podcast that we only continue to do so that Nick DeBano has an opening line for his Tinder conversations.
True story. True story.
Sometimes,
I don't know.
So,
I
ladies.
feel like I need it.
So, ladies, if you see a Matt Hummels lookalike on social media, be sure to swipe right. But no, this is the National Curriculum, here to review another week in Australian football. There he is, Mr. Nick DeBano, otherwise known as Matt Hummels. It was an interesting week in A-League men's footballs. The game that has just concluded, Sydney FC getting their first win of the season, 2-1 over Wellington. Earlier today, Macarthur losing their goalkeeper to a red card, going down 1-0 and still winning 2-1. Last night, Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory playing a barnstormer of a Melbourne derby 2-2. Prior to that, the Central Coast Mariners, well, I think Robinson is now on his 457th last strike, losing 2-0 to the Mariners with his Western Sydney Wanderers. And then on Friday night, Western United, no prizes for guessing what the score was, 1-0 winners over Adelaide United in a game that some people tried to call the Adelaide Derby. 1, no, 2, it's not a derby if they're in different states. But thank you for joining us all. As you can see on the screen, my name is Joey Lynch. My absolute pleasure to be joined by Ante Jukic, Nick Stoll, and the Tinder King, Nick DeBano. Boys,
Jesus.
How are you going?
Bravo, DeBano. DeBano, I want to know, what was the success rate like when you opened with "I have a podcast"?
No. It wasn't. No. Just for context,
Expected goals. Like,
it's not like I came off the bat. It's not like I came off the bat and said I'm on the National Curriculum. It was part of the conversation, asking, for next time. But
are you
what happened was, no, I'm not. The issue was though that the fact that after I sent last week's episode, I got immediately unmatched because I wasn't on the episode, and I reckon she probably heard Unfair's monologues and went. So I rest my case. But anyways, I mean,
maybe she thought Ante was harsh on the Wanderers, saying they need to cut 5 players.
Maybe she's a closet
Rustling
Wanderers
Jimmy's
fan. Maybe she's a closet
she,
Wanderers fan. Who knows?
Maybe she, like a few other Wanderers fans, doesn't believe that Ante watches the games.
He doesn't. It's a lie. He pretends, man.
Yeah, he doesn't watch the game. He forensically examines them. How long did it take you to get through the first 15 minutes of the Western Sydney Wanderers Phoenix game the other week, Ante?
I don't want to comment about that.
Wow.
Those long Twitter threads that you see about each game, he's just making things up. He's just like this. It's like me with the NFL Grand Final, just saying general stuff.
It's like I should do it like a Vincent Adult Man in BoJack Horseman. Like he did a good business.
First reference of the night. I don't understand.
Just on those Twitter threads, I think the best part about the Twitter threads is, I think Joey can also vouch for this as well, is seeing them being done live in action in the box. Because on Friday night, Pakua Frimpong, who was sitting next to me, was absolutely like killing herself laughing, I'd say, when you were searching up the Russell Westbrook "I'm just running around" meme. Yeah, that is seeing it in action.
Who was that for?
I think that was for one of the Adelaide players. I think it was all the Adelaide players except Ben.
The whole Adelaide team except Helen.
All right, we should really start talking about the football.
We should start talking about football. So first game that we're going to talk about. We weren't going to talk about it, in fact, until our lone Sydney panelist insisted that we talk about it right off the bat. So don't come for us, Sydney bros. But it is the Melbourne Derby. And it was, well, the first
It was a
hour,
partidazo.
Yeah.
It was the game of the round. It's the game of the round.
It was the game of the rounds. First hour looked sort of like it was going to script. And then, well, they didn't just rip up the script. They set fire to it and then snorted the ashes as all manner of chaos broke out. City going up 2-1, bang, bang in quick succession. Both sides going at each other. Just Ivan Kavala turning into an assist. Yes, their big Croatian goalkeeper, who we're still not sure if he's actually a good goalkeeper or not, serving up the assist for daggers. it had a red card for Jamie McLaren that we're still trying to figure out what was for. None of us have any idea. It had everything from an entertainment perspective, but it was also a game of football, and we forgot to actually write in the chat who's going first. So I'm just going to pick someone. Ante, what did you think of the game?
Not much of it.
What do you mean?
Quite
You're
frankly,
such a downer. You're such a downer.
I am look, all right. I am
honestly.
all right. Yeah, great. It's standard A-League fare, man. Standard A-League fare. Like, it was just Victory as a team. They created nothing in that second half, and the fact that they did create, or Kelleher provides the assist for D'Agostino after a flick on that doesn't happen. It's just so fitting for how Victory played. And, coming into this game, especially with Victory scoring that opening goal from that quick free kick, and, irrespective of Curtis Good being asleep for that one, you have, the game state of the team that likes to sit and absorb, yet concedes the highest average XG per shot in the league against the team that, despite the small sample size, had the lowest quality XG per shot and losing positions in the A-League this season. And from City's perspective, that was probably their best performance of the season, irrespective of the result. I think it's quite... If it wasn't apparent to this point, I think there's more credence to the idea that you do have to start both Berenguer and Tilio, and that Tilio should be having one of the wing positions. But yeah, there was chaos. The only thing that Victory brought to the game, let's say as a spectacle, was just their fans. That was it.
Well, I mean, look, in terms of the
That's
on-field
such a harsh
spectacle,
review.
look,
go, Nevada. Give us some
look,
positive vibes.
I'll give a bit more positive vibes because, I mean, Ante, I know that, in terms of the actual game, Victory didn't play amazing football, but in terms of what the game offered, in terms of bringing in the crowd aspect and the end-to-end sort of pulsating finish and the drama and the half chances and everything, it was a fun game. I got to say, I thought, just from that sense, it was fun because we haven't seen a Melbourne derby that sort of equal and one-sided with the big crowd and with both teams being sort of up and about, at that sense. Because think about the last two seasons, right? 6-0, 7-0, 1-1 draw behind closed doors. The season before that, Victory were abhorrent, let's be real. And City were obviously a much better side at that point. So I actually thoroughly enjoyed it from the sense that it just, I feel like the players really fed off that energy. Once it got tight towards the end after Daggers scored in particular, those last 10 minutes was just anyone's game. And we know it, for us who obviously file on the whistle, that when it gets to that scoreline, you want it to stay the same because you don't want anything to change. But this might have been the one game where I could have done with a late winner, just for the sake of the roof off Amy Park would have, I mean, it's not really a proverbial roof, but the place would have gone nuclear if there was a late winner. But, in terms of what I noticed from City, it's no surprise, Ante, that City's best game of the season came with a different front three, with Tilio in instead of Matthew Leckie. I still think that when Leckie comes back in, I think he should come in for Andrew Naboo. As much as Naboo had the assist and had the goal, they came as a result of good play from other players. Think about Berenguer dragging the players out.
Sorry, not just that. But how bad Broxham was at left back when the ball goes out to Tilio.
Yes, and think about that goal. He got completely done for. He was caught in no man's land. Atkinson with that brilliant run right across the side, right across the pitch, dragged everyone across. Naboo all by himself. Broxham just caught ball watching, and there's the goal. But I think as well for Victory, the one thing that I noticed was when Marco Rojas went off, how much that game changed. We all said it in the box. And Ante, you said it first. I'll give you definitely the props on that one. But you said straight away, Rojas off, Economides on, everything changed. The outlets changed. Jake Brimmer was really good in that first half, sort of died off as the game went on. Joey, you sort of summed it up very well that, as we were saying today, that once it starts to get more chaotic and everything, he wasn't able to get himself into the contest. So for me in itself, I think we know that these two teams are going to be right up there at the end of the year. I think the next two meetings towards the end of the season, the next two derbies, when the stakes are a bit higher, when we know how the table's starting to form, if both these teams are, in around the sort of top four sort of area, it's just going to raise that octane. And I think in terms of the crowd and everything, though, I've got to say, that was one of the best Melbourne sporting events since COVID, putting it bluntly. We haven't had many, so I know that the sample size is small, but that was fantastic. Just the noise and everything else. Loved it, and I want to see more. Already can't wait for the second Carnation later this year.
Look, I think, Ante, you're totally right in terms of, especially when it comes to, look, I think City have their limitations, and I think Victory are really struggling to impose themselves onto games instead of reacting to situations. But the important thing is, the thing that I care about the most at the moment is, are the people who are going to A-League games enjoying themselves? Are the people who are watching A-League games enjoying themselves? Because there's not that many. So we need pretty much most of them to have an enjoyable time. And it feels like that the Victory fans had a great time. The City fans had a great time. People watching on TV had a great time. That is an important thing that, let's be honest, doesn't happen in a lot of games at the moment. There are a lot of games that you're just like, man, what a waste of time that was. Whether you went or just watched it on TV. So that to me was a really important thing. I like the fact that Jason Davidson, you talk about Broxham having issues at left back. Jason Davidson, of course, was out. I like the fact that he was in the away end, and that, I think he hasn't had the best start to life of Victory, but that's a great way to kind of get yourself in with the fans. I just like it first. Yes. Well, I mean, that's an interesting question. Who was the first A-League player to go into the away end? There's a few who've come out of the away end and have actually ended up on the pitch. I think Mark Warren used to be in the Cove all the time for Sydney FC.
Melbourne Victory's current media manager once did it for Melbourne City.
Oh, really? dropping Melbourne bombs that I don't understand, but I'm sure that's controversial.
Legitimately the truth. Melbourne City had an injury crisis in the warm-up. One of their media department, it was an NPL goalkeeper, and he got signed as an emergency for the day.
Best league in the world. But look,
respect the high NL.
I even liked the fact that the whole Tifo debacle. What can Victory fans put up and da da da. And I like the Tifo that they put up in the end. I think you should put up provocative tifos. That's what part of active support is. But I like that the rivalry between these two clubs seems to be growing, because from a Sydney perspective, I always looked at the Melbourne Derby as far less than the Sydney Derby. I always thought that the Sydney Derby was much more established than the Melbourne Derby, and this feels like, maybe because the two Sydney teams are absolute SHIT right now, that basically that the Melbourne Derby is really growing, and that's really important. That's good to see from my perspective.
I think I had a few takeaways from the game which haven't already been touched on, or one was minorly touched on. Nathaniel Atkinson, I don't know with enough certainty to speculate in an on-the-record forum about why he hasn't been playing many minutes for Melbourne City. However, I will just say that assuming he is fully fit going forward, I think if you are Patrick Isnorbo, you need to figure out a way to get him on the pitch. He clearly offers that side something going forward, and defensively as well. He can do a job. To be honest, knowing how he is rated in the national team setup, I would not be surprised to see him get a call up from Graham Arnold and the Socceroos, regardless of how many minutes he is playing for Melbourne City. Also, touching on the crowd, I think one thing I haven't seen very many mentions of it on social media, and if you have mentioned it on social media, I apologize, but one thing that jumped out to me looking at the active support was a lack of something. There was a lack of high visibility vests interspersed throughout the supporters, and that is a big win in the sense that over-policing has been one of the biggest problems fans in this country at all levels, A-League and below, have faced. There is a perception that football fans are some sort of great, dirty foreign horde of others that need to be that mainstream Australia needs protecting from by more police. So
that was the description for this podcast originally.
But so the fact that clubs and active support were able to work with security and police to avoid some of those scenes of over-policing was a good thing, which makes it all the more disappointing that apparently a few morons decided to start a punch-up down the City active end during the game. Apparently, a whole bunch of people have done a whole bunch of work to achieve the things that you have been crying out for how many years now? And then the first opportunity you get to ruin it, you go over and start a punch on because you've seen Green Street hooligans one too many times and you think you're well-ard, you donkeys. Ruining it for everyone. And then the one tiny thing that I also want to say, in the lead into this game, it's a bugbear of mine, Melbourne Victory fans, talking about how this isn't an organic rivalry like their rivalries with Adelaide and Sydney. The only reason you have rivalries with Sydney and Adelaide to the extent that they are is because Football Australia inorganically instituted a policy of only one A-League side per city at the A-League's birth. They artificially limited your capacity to have local rivals and instead forced you to have rivalries with City and Adelaide. That's not organic. That's just a different type of artificial than the one you have right now.
Not to mention their foundations as entities. But the funny thing about Victory fans or the Victory fan base's resentment towards City Football Group and Melbourne City, it's almost like it's the first time that there is a force greater than Melbourne Victory that is actively leveraging its power over Melbourne Victory in one sense. I'm sorry, guys, but welcome to our world.
Our world, Melbourne Knights fans.
Yeah, well, I just want to wear Ante's the dyed in the wool Melbourne Knights, Melbourne Croatia.
Yeah. and the gravity of the leveraging of that power is seeing. I understood it this week, but there's also a part of me that saw this week, and I was like, there's a lot more water that has to go under that bridge.
Just a really tiny point on the crowds itself. Joey, Will was scampering for a crowd figure last night, and it's only just been made available 24 hours after the game. There was 19,000.
I had it last night. You
found it?
No, I texted the media manager and he gave it to me. I did a
Look
journey.
at Scoop over here.
Well,
He got that guy to count it via pictures on.
Good stuff, Joey.
You got a subtle flex from Joey, man.
TNC, Joey, just need to get with you with a little army helmet on the side here, and then you'll be all ready to go. No, I was just saying, like, in terms of the crowd was great with the noise they made, but I'm a bit disappointed that this. I know we've said a lot about the City fans not rocking up, and it's been the story of literally them since they were Melbourne Heart. But it was a perfect night in Melbourne, and there was no other sporting events in Melbourne. And the side that we were on, above us, it was basically empty. I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't get a little bit more. I know that's me just maybe, emulating that meme of we want more and we need more. But in saying that, like, we do. But the thing is, though, like, I would just be curious because obviously City, it was their home game. They get the lion's share of the tickets. I'd be very curious to see when it's the Victory home derby, how that changes. Because, I mean, Victory did their bit. They sold out their sections, no problem. I don't know what the general admission allocation is with difference with membership redemptions and everything else, but it's a bit disappointing that we didn't get enough City fans rolling up and at least filling up the side, our side, the broadcast side, because you would have hoped to tick over 20K and maybe get closer to 22, 23. I'm just saying. That's just me just being pedantic, but it's a Melbourne derby after all.
Here's my question about this, and maybe this is a bigger discussion. Maybe we shouldn't go into this, but City Football Group, they're champions of Australia. They're champions of the MLS now. They're champions, I think, of India. Obviously, they're champions in England as well. Do they care about, in the grand scheme of things, crowds? Like attendance, interest?
No.
Like their primary goal, we know, is to, whitewash the Abu Dhabi royal family, power, influence, and I think they just want their teams to be successful. Like they want their teams to be successful, but I think that's really like we just want to be able to say, look, We're winning.
It's a
in Australia.
secondary aim. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we're winning.
I would
So
say it's a multi-part
go on.
answer. It's a multi-part answer. The people on the grounds who
here.
get up every day and go to drive into the CFA and work at the CFA,
For sure.
they care. They care.
For sure. Not doubting that.
People in Abu Dhabi, no.
Don't care.
But my point is the people who are in Abu Dhabi, who are running the whole show, this whole, was it global football or whatever, the global local kind of mix or whatever that they were talking about. My thing is they could, if they wanted to, fund the best fan engagement project ever, that they could use and reuse over in here, in MLS, in wherever. I just don't think they're interested in that. And I'm not sure that we will ever see Melbourne City have a big fan base, even if they move to the, Dandenong or whatever the plan is. I just think it's never going to happen. If it's not going to happen now, it's never going to happen. They have the ability to make changes in that department, and they don't seem particularly interested in it.
But we've long spoken about this with Melbourne City anyway, and something that's isolated here with respect to Melbourne Victory and the entire history of Australian football. It's like, what compels someone to be a Melbourne City fan? Anyway, something I wanted to raise about the game itself. Something about let's say City's second goal. Neither Lecky or Nabu are delivering that ball on the run in the way that
it was nice. It was nice. It was
like
nice.
That's not happening with Lecky or Nabu. Like Nabu will probably try something, because
Outside of the booth.
Whatever, he'll try.
Hey, he scored. He scored from that position.
Exactly. He's an Avic. He's an Avic. So he's just he's got irrational confidence. Cool, whatever. He's going to try that. But I don't think either of them could consistently deliver that ball.
And that's why the kid had the Tilio cereal clip for the music video. That's why the kid knew ball. The kid knew who needs to start in the front three.
He knew his ball.
He left the Naboo brand on the shelf. Right, left that. Didn't worry about it. The Lecky Cocoa Pops is like, nah, all good. Tilio's, baby. That's what I'm starting my morning.
Did you just say Cocoa Pops or Cocoa Pops?
Oh, God. All right. We have a lot of other games to get onto, so I'm going to move us on after 20 good minutes on shitting on everybody's favourite game of the round, as you would expect from the national curriculum. But we can now move on to what no doubt a lot of people are either watching this live stream for or tuning into the podcast. Western Sydney Wanderers. Those of us at the game, the Melbourne Derby, would have heard me just singing along. Here's to you, Mr. Robinson. It's time for you to go. Oh. But surely at some point, how many lives does Carl Robinson have? Another defeat for the Wanderers, another performance that gave nothing to suggest that they are set to turn things around anytime soon. But then that isn't new. We've said all that before. What is new is that in the hours since that game, we first had former Western Sydney Wanderers coach, amongst other roles he has had in football, Patrick Zwijnswijk, coming out and talking about how, well, I'll just quote him. In response to the Wanderers results post on Twitter, I quote, I once coached for this proud and fantastic supported club, and because of two of the most mentioned names in the comments, I'm no longer there. Unfortunately, no club identity beside amazing supporters. I wish you all the best and good luck with the season, end quote. And then later today, a Western Sydney Wanderers fan posted a clip of the Robinson press conference in which he responded to a question from the Sydney Morning Herald's Dom Bossy, asking how this talented attack that he has at his disposal was only creating one good chance in the game. I know Ante's grimacing at the fact that I called them a talented attack, but whatever. How they only created one good chance in the game. Carl Robinson basically said, I don't know. I'm paraphrasing. That's something we'll have to look at. It was quote tweeted by former Wanderers coach. She's coached in the academy in the A-League and perhaps best known as the A-League women's coach, Dean Heffernan. Quote, I can tell you, Carl, It's because JT and Gavin Costello have created the most toxic environment I've seen in 20 years of football. Paul Lederer wouldn't be aware of what goes on. How can 60-odd players and 4 coaches over 5 years be wrong? I rejected a 3rd year due to the above, end quote. So aside from that, everything's going well.
Look, this is what I'm going to say about this. So Robinson's going to go, I don't know, in a few weeks, next week. He's going to go at some time, right? And it's inevitable. This guy's not turning it around.
Bro, his tenure's more resilient than like the Australian housing market and coronavirus combined. Like,
he's going to go. He's going to go for sure. I reckon he'll go end of Jan or something like that, right? They'll sort it out. To me, it should already be gone. It should have been gone ages ago. But Satsimas, we've heard that Satsimas said, I wasn't present, but the people who were present at the Wanderers fan forum earlier in the season, that Satsimas said, look, Robinson's totally in charge of the football department. All the football, that's him, right? But actually, if you delegate responsibility to someone, that still falls on you because you have to delegate to the right people. So I think Robinson is going to go, but the problem is not going to be solved by Robinson going and, quote unquote, a better coach coming in and fixing it. This club had the greatest head start in A-League history in terms of incredible fan base from the jump, great first season, Asian Champions League winning team within season 2, like everything. It had everything. It was in the best catchment area for local talent in the country. It had the greatest head start in Australian football, and it's got an amazing stadium as well now, right in the heart of its population. It has everything going for it, and yet it is in the predicament that it is in. And you have to ask yourself, this Gavin, whatever his name is, the first time I've actually heard of him, to be honest, John Satsimas, what are they doing in terms of how they're building a club? And Zvansvak is totally right. Their identity is only you have good fans. And those fans, by the way, are massively waning. The attendances are way down. The active support is way down. So that's all you really have, and you're even losing that. So massive changes. And Wanderers have to decide, and this is all the way up to Paul Lederer at the top. You have to decide what kind of club you want to be, and it's got to start now because you should be the biggest club in the country, and you're absolutely stuffing it up. And I think Satsimas, it's not working out at all. Even if he's just delegating responsibility to the football department, he shouldn't be he's delegating to the wrong people, which in fact is bad management. So,
sorry, the Wanderers are alone in this respect?
No, but we are talking about the Wanderers right now, and the Wanderers, yeah. So, I know. I just have one tiny point to make. It's just that the Wanderers are the clearest example of the lack of sustainability from an organizational standpoint. It's, and you look at Popper, the 2 clubs he's been to now in Australian football are completely lost. Like in terms of organizational structure, in terms of identity, in terms of direction, his departure has meant a giant vacuum at both clubs or both entities, if you want to call them that. But the onus is on the boards and the people who are trusted with making these decisions of hiring them to be able to understand that these clubs have to be sustainable without coaches. And they should not be giving power to coaches in this respect, and that's the luxury more than let's say player pool and population. That's the luxury that the Wanderers and Macarthur and Western United have had and upon everyone else. City have been able to spend money at problems and throw money at problems, have been able to circumvent that. But they've had the luxury of seeing what didn't work at the founding entities of the A-League, and they're still following the same path. It boggles my mind how they do not see what has to be done in this respect.
Okay. I guess I have a couple of points. I think one, I have recently been playing Red Dead Redemption 2, and I'm not sure if anybody else has played that game, but now every time somebody mentions Gavin in the subject of Western Sydney Wanderers, I immediately flash back to that character that can be found walking around going, Gavin! Has anyone seen my friend Gavin? I've lost Gavin. So yeah, that is
second reference of the night that I don't get at all. But yeah, sure.
And I haven't even made a wrestling reference yet.
Here we go.
Going
It's
that well still.
Bro, we're gonna get into real nerd areas if we start talking about Dune, man. Anyway, sorry.
Just no Spider-Man spoilers, or I'll kill you all. No, but yeah, Western Sydney Wanderers.
In the end, he's the hero.
Oh God, shock. No, but I've said it, and I'll say it about Western Sydney. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it again right now. It should not be this hard being Western Sydney Wanderers. I swear to God, it takes talent to not succeed with the hands that the Western Sydney Wanderers
that's it.
have been dealt. And yeah, it's just kind of Ante stole most of my talking points. It comes down to not just, if you have now burned through 4 coaches, that's not the problem anymore. Okay, one of the problems is that you keep appointing coaches that apparently aren't up to the job. Yeah, are bad. But yeah, it's one of the things that so often bogs down so many different entities. It's a focus on outcomes versus process. Everybody gets bogged down with the outcome. Everybody ignores the process behind it. It's just ridiculous. And like you're talking about, like the succession planning, after Popper leaves, and organizationally, the APL is supposed to be football is supposed to be full of intelligent, successful people that understand business. And the excuse could be given at Western Sydney Wanderers and Perth Glory that the nature of Popovich's departure, as abrupt as they were both times, led to those vacuums. But I serve on a board of directors. One of my duties as a board director is to have a plan for if our CEO walks out the door tomorrow. Yes, our organization would take a pretty big hit, but we would have a couple of ideas already about what we were going to do as a result of that. And the organization would continue to function. I just don't understand.
It was 4 years ago that Popovich left. 4 years ago.
Well, that's more an observation just on how it's allowed to even happen in the first place. When
I totally get that, but it's just like at a certain point,
it's no longer an excuse.
You could say, okay, they brought in Gombau quickly after Popovich.
No, they tried doing the same thing with Gombau with like what they did with Popovich. They gave him full control. And
totally, right? They tried that. Then that's a mistake. So then you think, okay, now we learn, now we reset. Then they bring in Marcus Babbel, who was, I think, maybe the worst foreign coach we've ever had in the A-League or close to.
Do you have to lies? Do you understand the game a little bit?
Statistically, he was like...
He might have been the best dressed, though. Maybe been the best dressed.
Right? I don't know, but look, anyway...
on Hayden Fox there, Nick Mana.
Like a Von Trapp teacher with the high.
But to me, like the board, Satmas, they should all have been under massive pressure after the Babbel debacle. That should have been like... They should have been going then. So for them to appoint Robinson and then give Robinson the scope that they've given him to double down on it, despite no evidence last year that it was working. There was no evidence last year that it was working. And now they are where they are, which is, they're falling down the bottom of the table. They're out of the FFA Cup, the RPLI card, a semi-professional team, essentially. They're losing crowds. And, we understand business. Oh, we're good for, we're great at business. This is bad business.
You have to understand football.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, football is different. Football is different. You have to understand. Yes, you can apply corporate concepts and techniques to, the organizational structure of football, but you have to understand the game.
Yeah, you have to understand.
They get sold stories, man, by the people who are eventually hired. And yeah,
Dabana, I can see you want to jump in. Go.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. It's okay. I mean, the one thing that I've noticed, we're going to talk about yesterday's presser because we didn't see much. I didn't watch too much of the game when I was at at Amy Park and just had it on in the background. But one thing I noticed, if Carl Robinson's literally coming out, and he said this, I after the game, and I quote, "The answer is I'm not sure to their problems." He's already put his hands up and said, "I honestly don't know how to fix it." If that is what he's saying in a press conference, then he should be out the door right now, putting it bluntly. And Carl Robinson has been known as one of the great talkers in press conferences, and we've seen so many times he's always said, "I'm going to find a way to fix it," but now he doesn't know what to do. But in terms of, Western Sydney, like just in terms of what they're offering on the field, like I know we've spoken a lot about what's happening off it, but on the field, they are just a complete, utter shambles. Like seeing what they were doing yesterday in the few moments that I saw, the decisions, I think they are ranked like number 1 for shots, I think, in the league or something. There's a lot of, but very low in XG. So they're just literally getting the ball. Yeah. So literally getting the ball and just pinging it from wherever they can. There's no plan. There's no plan to actually build it up and get their players involved. And with supposedly all the big names on NRI that are so highly rated, like, Dimi Petrados, James Troisi, etc., they should be apparently doing better. But is this squad really good enough? I mean, when we really look at it, is this squad good enough? They've got a few really talented players. We mentioned the likes of Antonis, Ugarkovic, Rami Nazarene, Tate Russell, some of those other defenders, Reece Williams as well. But other than that, are they really that great? I mean, the one thing that I noticed as well, like the second goal, what's the goalkeeper doing? He literally was so out of place that when he went to dive, he was so awkward. It was like,
doesn't even go to the corner.
It wasn't even a good free kick from Bazzani. Like how are you
free
conceding that?
But the look,
exactly.
The foul that even happens. The foul that even happens, that Nisbet's initially allowed to get into that position to win the free kick there. The eventual foul from Ugarkovic is not good. But the fact that he's allowed to get into that position and that they can get there when, they had a 2-on-1, about 10 meters away from that area of the pitch. But I think a lot of it has to do with how they attack, which then impacts how they defend. And in attack, they are not good. They are absolutely not good. They can get the ball from, let's say, their half to about 20 meters, 25 meters from the opposition goal, but they are absolutely clueless with what to do when they do get to 25 meters from goal. And this is born of players who are incompatible with each other, 2 players who are frankly not good enough on an individual level. And Wanderers Twitter didn't like it when I spoke of Hemed. I don't see it. And even when he was at Wellington, but we're not even talking about how much these guys are being paid. Speaking of the sustainability of clubs, to now consider that 1, they've signed these players, 2, we have to also consider how much these guys are being paid. It is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And you've got some of these guys on multi-year deals, man. Yeah. It's insane.
The rebuild, whoever does it, is going to be unbelievably expensive, painful. It's not easy to move these guys on if they're on multi-year deals either.
But that's like the same thing. We're setting the expectation. It should be easy to rebuild as Western Sydney Wanderers. Just go into your backyard and find one of the hundreds of incredibly talented youngsters that come out of that region.
However painful it would be, make those players unhappy to the point where they want to leave, and so they don't get a severance pay.
So I'd like to say hello to all the representatives of the PFA that are just tuning in.
You are commodities, footballers.
I got just one quick question before we move on from the Wanderers. But are you guys getting a bit of a sense of deja vu with the Wanderers and Melbourne victory of last year in terms of similar sort of occurrences in terms of squad composition, coaching,
and not just that,
board direction and everything else?
That's right. Because now, and I was just thinking about that when we were talking about Satsimas only recently, everything's hunky-dory now with Di Pietro. Just because victory are essentially shithousing results over the first month, there is no talk about what is happening at Melbourne Victory and the direction of that club, irrespective of what's going on under the surface at youth level. Yeah, sorry. Let's move on.
It's interesting because you did say
youth level. There is no youth level in the A-League.
Victory are back. They're shithousing big games, and the arse is falling out of the youth academy.
Just quickly as well. Sorry, it's funny because months ago you mentioned Ante. Months ago, every Victory game they were chanting for Anthony Di Pietro's head. Every single game, like after a loss. And now, as you said, it's kind of gone quiet. But in terms of the business side, like it sounds eerily similar. Victory hold those big Victory in business lunches, biannually. Every single season. And while they were going terribly, that's all that mattered, keeping the corporates happy. And I feel like there's a similar sense with the Wanderers right now. And they don't is there much of a care about the football on the field right now? I don't know. Sometimes I don't know.
Great, good way to sum it up.
There's too much complexion for my Sunday night.
It's the biennial corporate get-togethers. To quote Triple H, I'm by a lot of things. Annual isn't one of them. There you go, Nick Stoll.
There's your wrestling reference, mate.
There's your wrestling reference. Well, a paraphrase one. All right. I am going to move us on to...
We've got 40 minutes on 2 games.
Yeah, we got 40 minutes on 2 games. We're going well. I'm going to move us on to an unfortunate event in TNC history. TNC taking a bit of an L. The box office Jets. Yeah, we know you're going to jump in a second. The box office Jets taking the L, going down to 10-man Macarthur. Not only 10-man Macarthur, Philip Curto-less Macarthur. Today on Sunday afternoon. All right, I'm going to keep Ante shut up for a little while longer before he can start making us all look like idiots in his mind.
No, yeah, look, Ante said they're going to finish games strong. They conceded in the 84th minute.
They did?
Just a little bit of quiet, Ante. A little bit of quiet.
Well, it's a dead ball, man.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway.
It was a nice dead ball as well. There's a lot of credit for the header by Danny De Silva. And I love Danny De Silva. That ball was fantastic. He scored the nice volley. Before we get on to why the Jets stuffed it up, let's give a tiny little bit of credit to Macarthur because we smash them every week. The rubbish club. What did Josh say? Everything about them screams amateurism or something. Like, bang. This team, I don't know, it's nearly at the top of the table, and I don't rate them at all, except Danny De Silva. Danny De Silva.
He's got sauce, man. He plays with sauce, man. But
he's so good.
Yeah, he's got something. And we were talking about it. It's like that rule Eddie did in the second half. And it's like he gets hit by the ball before he passes it.
It was such a nice spin. Here's my question on Danny De Silva. A good, consistent season for him. Socceroos? He gets Socceroos?
I mean,
I think that ship is sailed.
No, because he's never going to have a good consistent season. Danny De Silva.
That's true. That's a big if.
He's never had the thing about Danny De Silva that really frustrated me over the course of his career. However, it feels like he's been around for ages, but he's still very, very young, relatively.
24 years old.
Yeah, he just seemed content at Central Coast, and it was like, do you not want more?
Because you can get more. Because you can get more.
We want more. We need more. Anyway, but I think with respect to Macarthur, the complexion of the game helped them. Not with respect to the red card, but with how things were going in the second half. I think that triple sub, just as Newcastle were really starting to turn the screw, really changed the game. They were able to breathe, and I think it was pretty huge. But like I was saying,
why do you think Pappas did the triple sub? Because it struck me as a bit weird as well.
This is something I touched on.
Is it a minutes thing? Is it a?
I think it might be. I don't know, but on the surface, I think there is a really obvious desire and to be aggressive and to and to affect the game, to directly affect the game, having some kind of impetus in that respect. And that's what was so microcosmic about that triple sub in a way, because it was like things were turning. They were really starting to get into good positions in Macarthur's penalty area and make
You'll had that chance where he skinned that player, and if he does the right cutback there, 2-1.
Yeah, absolutely. And you had that, and the triple sub only comes after a minute when Schumann makes that save from Macarthur.
Yeah, that's a good.
And
save.
that's as good a chance as you're going to get. Like things are working. Like you didn't. Like, okay, there might have been a change in terms of a replenishment of energy, but like I think that sub kind of impacted the flow of how Newcastle were playing to that point. And Macarthur, as a consequence, were able to breathe. And so after that 5-10 minutes of real pressure and duress in that respect, they could just regather and then start to counter and transition again. Nick, you wanted to say something?
Tabata or stop?
I want to say something, so I'm going to jump in.
No. My
you
point
go.
is very, very minuscule, Stall. So you go first, mate. I just want to say a quick shout out.
Well, is it like, you look like you've got something to say? Wow.
Yes, I certainly do.
Go, Nick Stoll. You go first, mate.
So I was just going to say, like, Newcastle, I thought they were playing well first half. You know, I think you're right. It was working. I think Macarthur is going to be Johnny Warren Player of the Year. Like, I think he's that good, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule that either.
But also, you know, our favorite receding hairline player, Thurgate, was out with COVID. We wish him the best. But he's a big loss for that team. And also,
I an article talking about him for the Socceroos, and he immediately gets COVID. I can't help but feel responsible for that.
But also, I think as well, what kind of affected the game was the fact that Jason Hoffman had to go play left back, and as he would receive the ball on the left a lot, and then have to always cut back inside on his right foot. He has no confidence taking the ball with his left foot, and the Macarthur players knew it. So they would let the ball go out to him and just be like, yeah, cool, you're just going to come back inside. And it was all good. And that happened at least 3 or 4 times during the game. So I don't know. The Jets, despite being a man up, had their issues, that I think I don't think we should be selling our Jets stock on this game.
No.
I think the Jets are still going.
No.
They're going.
Just a quick couple points. First of all, if we're talking about Becker, we haven't even mentioned the goal. Like, oh my goodness, what a hit. That was an absolute rocket. I genuinely, I'm not going to double down on your take there, Stoll, but I'd say he'd be in the running. I don't know if he'd win it, but I think he'll definitely be up there. When we're in the wash-up, I think he'll win the Golden Boot this year. I reckon he'll definitely be right up there. But I don't know if he'll win the Johnny Warren. That's the thing. I feel like it's such a role for playmakers and tens. But
the thing I'll say is this year is wide open. Both Johnny Warren and even the league. Like,
absolutely.
Anyone could come and get it.
But Johnny Warren's wide open because nobody's actually played that well yet across the entire...
Except our guy.
And here we are. Sorry, Nick was talking like tens win the Johnny Warren. Let's go through the starting tens in this league. Yeah. Jake Brimmer, Stefan Mork, like another one, Roman Ogbari. Like, even though Roman Ogbari should be an 8, we've also got...
Dia on his last legs.
Dia on fumes.
Daniel Steins.
Steins should.
Russell Westbrook, aka
I'm getting big Tom Davies vibes with Steins.
That's a good. That's a good call.
However, like the starting tens in this league aren't really like they're more there for defensive and like they are what Russell Westbrook's just running around like.
Yeah, well, it's like Sardinero, literally, is Russell Westbrook. But the last thing I was going to say, you mentioned the Jason Hoffman thing, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on. But it's like Macarthur read something that Adelaide didn't do enough of on Friday night with Topple Stanley at left back. That was sending a certain panelist here into an absolute frenzy for 90 minutes. But I mean, that's just smart. Look, I think Macarthur, at the end of the day, they're top of the league. They haven't really convinced me. I know they've defended well and done everything, but I still think eventually the penny will drop, and I think that teams will work them out and will catch them. But yeah, I'm not selling my Jet stock, but I think they actually might drive the stake through Carl Robinson's heart next week at McDonald Jones Stadium, which shapes up, in my opinion, which is actually on Sunday next week as well, which is almost perfect timing, as a bit of the sayonara. So I reckon that's also something to keep an eye on, because that's going to be a lot of fun.
Could we get the ticker going again if Robinson gets sacked while we're live on air?
Well, the thing is,
let's
hope he survives till about 9 o'clock. You know, who's going to be surprised? Like, oh, really? They're letting him go? Like, what a shock.
The question is, like, in the event they get rid of Robinson, what's their contingency?
How are we back on the Wanderers?
Speaking
25 minutes.
No, seriously. Like,
no, they're zero. That's why they can't get rid of him, because they have no idea what they're doing. But look,
anyway,
we'll talk about that when it comes to it, because it's going to come to it in a few weeks or so. This is what I want to bring up. All right, Macarthur, because we're meant to be talking about Macarthur, top of the table.
We've got graphics. Oh my god,
we've got graphics, right? Macarthur, top of the table.
This is why you should be watching with us, like not listening on the podcast.
Thanks.
No, this is why you should watch with us and then go back and listen to the podcast, preferably 7 times with the volume turned down to pump up the
boost
numbers.
Boost the ratings.
Look, with all the due respect to these two teams, is Macarthur Western United the lamest title race in history?
I copped the message. Sorry, I copped the message on the weekend saying, like, the A-League trophy, the toilet seat could not be a more apt trophy for the A-League this season, when everyone is shithousing their way to the finals.
But no, you got to say Macarthur Western United, like first and second, 13 points, 12 points. It's early in the season. The table lies at this stage.
I feel like Nelson down here from the Wilson from Home Improvement.
Look, I'll move you. Here we go. Shut up. So annoying. Anyway, for those listening along at home, Ante was blocked by the graphic. But anyway, the point of it is now, our friend Teo raised a really good question.
We should point out that Teo is DNP Beers.
Yeah, that's true. Macarthur Western United grand final. Does it get more than 10,000 people?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Where's the game?
Yeah.
Well, who cares?
Who's the home team?
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Neither of them are getting 10.
Is it in Campbelltown, or is that GMHBA Stadium?
Have either of them ever drawn more than 10,000 home fans? I don't think so.
Yeah. Whenever Western hosts Melbourne Victory.
No, that's not home fans.
Oh, you mean home fans?
If your attendance is 11,000, you were the home team, but the away fans were 9,000.
Western United only have 8,000 members, so they haven't.
I don't know, man. Like, we talk about, like, you know, it's good when Melbourne Victory is good for the A-League when they're doing well. It's good when the Wanderers do well. And I love the A-League the most when the Wanderers were going amazing. That kind of first season, that was when it felt so fun. But this would be bad for the league if it's Macarthur Western United at the top of the table. Like, someone's got to change. APL's got to start using some of that 160 million to get these guys to drop down.
What's wrong with the Milwaukee Bucks Phoenix Suns NBA Finals? Like,
man, at least the Milwaukee Bucks had Giannis, and there was some like cool generational talent. Like Danny De Silva, I rate him, but come on, he's no Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Giannis gave an entire European country an excuse to pretend to care about basketball for a while.
Joins Stefanos Tsitsipas, joins Marcos Bagdatis for a while when he was Greek.
Bro,
the whole diaspora.
Greece is like basketball mad.
Yeah.
What do you want about, man?
Olympiacos Paul?
What do you want about, man?
There were a lot of guys I had no idea supported basketball, but the second Giannis became a name, they're like, "Oh, I've always loved the Bucks, man. I love Giannis." I couldn't even name the 2 other players.
That's a Greek Australian thing. That's a Greek Australian.
Yeah.
That's my point. Greek Australian.
We're both
Greek Australian.
Shout out to Nick Medalinos, by the way.
Yeah.
It's safe to assume on TNC that whenever we're slandering ethnicities, we're slandering the ethnicity/Australian portion of that group, not the actual people. But I'm going to ask a question that lets me pretend I actually watched this game rather than just saw some highlights after calling the Nike FC Cup final, and then I'm going to move us on. The red card incident that saw Curto sent off. should it have been an advantage instead?
Yes.
And
now,
it should have been.
And this is where I open the door for us to rant about the lack of advantages thus far during this round across
Adelaide United is the big one. With
I let my steam off last night, man. With that,
right?
Like that's disgusting.
Well, yeah, and it's just I don't know. It was the exact same situation for me with the Halloran goal, which should have counted, which was a great
and denied
finish,
us
by
the
the
chance
way.
to play the Soviet national anthem again.
That's maybe a silver lining in what was an outrageous decision, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I think I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why they seem so eager to play advantages when it's inconsequential advantages.
No way. Not even last night. There was one where City basically had a counterattack or had a transition able. Or had the ability to transition, while I work out my mind and mouth together. But they just have this grave propensity to, blow the whistle. Just watch the game. You see how play develops. Like, take the whistle out of your bloody man.
One quick thing. There is data to suggest that actually going like up a man, if you will, so the other team going down a man early in the game is actually better for you than scoring a goal. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's like the 40th minute or something. It's like
teams don't function in possession, man.
The 40th minute is like the where it changes, where it's better to get the goal than the...
Yeah, I'm going to cut us all off, and I'm going to go to Debano, Nick.
One really quick thing. You just mentioned Stoll 10 men. Don't get me started on 10 men early red cards because we got robbed of going to the round of 16 for a decision like that and then ended up...
All right, I'm going to cut Nick D off.
And two, quickly, shout out to, on Twitter, if we're going to engage on the socials, Pakua Frimpong just
I'll allow that.
saying, Heidi ho neighbor, just a shout out to Ante's home improvement. So... Just thought I'd engage with our fans, Joey, because I want to make it an inclusive show.
Engaging with the fans is good. Friend of the show, Pakua. We'll have to get her on at some point.
Shout out to
Pakua.
Pakua, but encouraging Ante is not a good idea. So let's just...
Which is what she does in the box on a weekly basis, or more than
just got to say, though...
She's like the devil on my shoulder. She's just...
Well... I will just say before we move on, of course, Ben Halloran, a member of TNC's Communist 11, has also been joined by Ray Marx Chan, as I saw as he responded how to pronounce it on Twitter the other day. And now joins third member by Tara Rushton after her Maoist-style khaki outfit that she was wearing for the Melbourne Derby coverage. So
I'm not getting on football sartorial. Is it the Marcus Babbel saga ruined football sartorial?
No, see, but Tara's not a coach, so it's allowed. So Maoist Tara Rushton is now a member of TNC's Communist 11. There you go.
Yeah.
So now we've got 3, and we're always on the lookout for 4. But let's moving on because it's taken us an hour to get through 3 games. We are nothing if not incisive.
Thank God one game was postponed.
Yeah, so thank God Brisbane versus Glory got postponed. Otherwise, I got no idea what we'd be doing. But the Killbots got a win. Sydney 2, Wellington 1. Diet Arnie Ball wins over Arnie Ball 0, or vice versa. I can't keep up with it.
Vanilla Arnie Ball.
Like, vanilla Coke goes hard, man. What are you talking about?
Yeah, vanilla Coke slaps.
Yeah. Okay, so the Killbots get a win. Steve Corica sticks it up. The big old meanies in the media that had been talking down his side sticks it right up us. Sydney back.
No.
There we go. So we're still meanies.
We can be really concise about this game. It was 2 teams playing a very similar style of play. Just one team is at home, has slightly better players, and isn't, displaced from their home and has all those issues. I think that's pretty much it. Sydney, I don't see any huge progress, just the inherent advantage that they have.
Okay. Now, if Corica is not going to start Neuenhoff, should Burgess start in midfield?
Yeah, anything that gets us starting Burgess.
You think about it, would you take Burgess ahead of Caceres in midfield?
Yes.
100%.
I think
regardless of some people.
Okay, Neuenhoff like should start. Okay, and there were instances where he showed like really unique clarity in terms of Sydney's, in terms of who plays for Sydney outside of Ninkovic, but Ninkovic is playing on fumes. Burgess.
You know what I think? I think
Burgess can play in midfield, man.
I think Neuenhoff, man, it must be an injury thing because to me, you know, they've lost Braddon for the season, right? And to me, it's strange that he would be so anti-Neuenhoff if he was so happy to have Braddon in there, right? Like
Yazbek runs more.
Yeah, no, and that's it. And Yazbek, this box-to-box player, and that's what he brought today. You know, like it was his debut, and we got to say it was solid. You know, brought that energy. You know, good for him. Congratulations. But I wouldn't think that that's a long-term plan. I would hope.
That was the thing that really struck me about Retre in the dying moments of the game. Just how much he panicked in terms of movement and decision-making. How much he just wanted to get rid of the ball and don't worry about it. Someone else will sort it out. We'll just get it up the pitch and we can go from there. Retre drowns in those kinds of situations, and you need someone next to him who is going to be able to provide clarity for him, who is essentially going to hold his hand through games, because Retre is the one who, and the only reason Retre kind of worked is because he did the bulk of the defensive work for Ninkovic. You know, Ninkovic wouldn't have to defend as much, wouldn't have to sprint back as much. And so he would play Retre on the same side as Ninkovic. Now, when Ninkovic doesn't play, frankly, what is the point of Paulo Retre in midfield?
Yeah, look, I think Burgess in a deeper role would be interesting. He's never done it in his career.
Yes, he has. He played at Wellington as one of the sixes in a 4-2-3-1.
I don't think
so.
I don't think
long
so.
Memory here, man.
I don't think so.
Yes, he did.
But anyway.
Specifically from memory, the game where they smacked Central Coast 8-2 in Gosford, Burgess played as a CM.
I mean, that game.
Yeah, I know, but like one of those games.
Yeah. But look, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I would be surprised if he does it. I think it seems like he's almost rotating Burgess and Ninkovic a bit. He sees them as similar players. I don't know. I would like to see them both on the
you
field.
have multiple creatives at the same time.
Yeah, it's like NPL's pick. Like we can only have one creative player on the pitch at all times.
But even speaking of the triple substitution that Papas did, the triple substitution that Corica did 2-0 up. Now, look, there might be COVID issues and fitness issues, and I'm not privy to what's happening within the camp and all those. I found it strange changes to make when you're 2-0 up, when you need to hold the ball, when the best thing you can do is kill the game through possession. You bring on Bobo, you bring on, Ninkovic makes sense, but Ryan Grant, I don't know. It was an odd one for me.
The Ryan Grant one screams of, we've got this game in the bag. Ryan needs to build up his fitness after having had COVID. Let's get some minutes in his legs.
But you didn't. The thing is, they didn't have this game in the bag. If they have the ability to hold possession and kill the game, they have it in the bag. And I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that was the logic that I got.
But my thing is, you have to be careful because you start going, we've got this game in the bag, despite the fact that the second goal came against the run of play. Right? The second goal came against the run of play. And look, and we should talk about this. Ante, you wrote a cool piece for ESPN basically discussing this whole thing of the team with possession never wins in the A-League. And I'm pretty sure Macarthur had about 10% possession today. Mariners had about 40% possession in their win against the Wanderers. I think maybe Sydney FC is the only team that won. Well, Western United for sure didn't have much possession.
It's a distinction that has to be made. Something I really wanted to get forward or get across in that piece. Like game state matters, and you look at even during it. Small plug. I'll have something on Victory City tomorrow morning out on ESPN, but You see, as soon as teams go up,
after you talk that game up so much, I can't wait to read.
Oh yeah, hey,
Okay.
there's a lot that I have to talk about.
I'm just going to quickly interrupt for the benefit of our listeners and viewers. Ante, game state. What do you mean by that?
Who's winning, or
go.
whether the scores are level? Minute of the game,
or like if a team's gone down to 10 men.
That's right. Complexion matters in this respect, and in relation to today's game, the goals weren't necessarily directly contributed to by the complexion of the game. How Sydney and Wellington were even getting into relative positions of threat, like so much of it was just broken play. And it, like the fact that Sydney were 2-0 up was not indicative of Sydney being 2 goals better than Wellington, for example. And, you know, the fact that Wellington scored in the manner in which they did late in the game, you know, kind of reaffirms that. Like
through a broken set piece.
Yeah, and it's just these teams effectively cancelled each other out. And McBreen was, speaking with confusion as to why Wellington couldn't play out of their own half. It's because everyone's practically playing man on man. Yeah. What do you not understand about this?
Well, I think, and that's when you have 2 similar teams who are similarly confused. Those teams, they're not like similarly like, oh, these 2 teams are amazing, they're going to cancel each other out because they're so like, it's just these 2 teams are pretty confused, and that's why they are where they are. That's why they've had the starts that they've had their starts, and that's why we got the game that we got. And I think we leave it there because it wasn't the best game. Speaking of the best game, so let's go to this next one.
I'm going to make another wrestling reference. It's like confused sides that are similar. It's like the doink spot.
I mean, is it? I don't know.
In Caesar's parking lot.
Please write into the show if you have complaints about the wrestling references. Please write in because
no. If you're enjoying our OSW review references at the OSW review boys, tell them to come on and we can talk.
Can of Coke to you guys.
Can of Coke to the OSW review boys.
I'm ending this broadcast.
Okay. Very briefly, there wasn't a game, so this conversation shouldn't take long. Apologies to Raw fans. We're not going to talk about you, which from some of the Raw fans I've seen, I doubt they very much care about that. I think they're trying to forget that the Raw exists at the moment. Perth Glory, 14 days isolation. It's a shitty situation. It's not a fair situation with all the different rules and shit. They've been doing all the right things, and then they get hit like this. My question for the chat, in 30 seconds or less, does Daniel Sturridge play a single minute for Perth Glory coming out of this hotel quarantine ever again? Nick DeBarno, you had your hand up first.
I think he plays. I think he does. I know a lot of people have gone very early and saying he's done, but something tells me he will see out the season. I just think that, he's going to. I just have this feeling. I as much as at the same time, there'd be part of me that if, say, Perth Glory released a statement said contract terminated, I wouldn't be shocked. But there's a greater side of me that's going, yeah, he'll be here for the rest of the season.
I'm of a similar viewpoint. I wouldn't be surprised if they do indeed get mutual. RIP to the Destruction in the Box podcast, but I think he'll get ceremonial minutes.
I think he wouldn't be singing on Instagram if he was deciding to leave the club. That doesn't suggest to me someone is like, F this, I got to get out of here. I would also say that he must be thinking, these bastards, they lied to me. They said, come to Australia for the lifestyle. Oh, the lifestyle's so good. You'll love the lifestyle. Oh, yeah, you can make more money elsewhere, but the lifestyle.
Didn't know who Emperor McGowan was.
Man, a month in quarantine.
That's what I mean. If you're coming to play for the A-League, why go play for Perth if you're going to be in that situation?
It was
like he's being paid in crypto. And he's being paid in NFTs.
It was one of the issues, actually, for Victor Sanchez at Western United, who, let's be honest, didn't have the best season for Western United. But he said, look, I came here for the lifestyle. And Melbourne was in lockdown for, I don't know, obviously you guys know better than me. many, many months. And you do sometimes think, one thing is you're in lockdown, but you've brought your family over and they're expecting to have this great lifestyle. And then they're just stuck inside all day in a country that they don't know, far away from family and friends during a pandemic. That's super rough. So, I know there's going to be a lot of, he's getting well compensated, Daniel Sturridge, da-da-da. It is a tough situation, You got to have a little bit of understanding for it.
Okay, I'll just say one more quick thing and moving on. I've seen there's been a lot of appeals. Let's get around the Perth Glory boys while they're in hotel quarantine and all that sort of shit. That's fine. If you want to do that, that's your own money. That's cool. If you have the resources to, and you are going to be doing that, consider matching that, donating to a homeless charity, donating to kids in need.
100%.
It is Christmas time.
Especially at this time of year. Yeah, exactly.
It is Christmas time. There are some kids that could probably really use a toy or really use, a turkey or some chocolate or something. So if you have, I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money. If you want to spend it on the Glory, that's fine. And if you have your heart set on that, that's fine. If you have the resources to, send something to the Glory and then match it by sending it to a charity, a homeless shelter, anything like that. Yeah. It is Christmas time. 100%. Peace and love, joy to the world. Okay, and on the subject,
but not turkey. Turkey's whack. Turkey's terrible.
Yeah, turkey's dry, man. I don't eat this.
Oh
no!
Do not diss turkey.
Turkey's rubbish.
Yeah, just because you're telling, just because you two are telling on yourselves as being unable to properly cook a bird doesn't mean that turkey is shit.
No. Chicken, amazing. You can do amazing things with chicken. Nah, turkey's rubbish. Turkey's terrible. The worst meat going.
Just haven't had a good turkey.
Fish before you have turkey.
Quails are nice.
Maybe our listeners can tell how little we want to talk about the next game. It was the first game of the round. Western United win 1-0. I get the feeling it's a 1-0 win. Again.
Yeah, look, does anyone have anything interesting to say about this game? Because I just say, good for you guys. You're winning 1-0. Boring as anything. I got no interest in it. Please keep it brief, Ante, because the highlights were enough for me to bear.
Something that really struck me about Viet in the post-game presser is I don't think he recognizes what's actually going on in terms of why the team isn't scoring as he so wonderfully put it.
What did he say? Who asked him, and what did he say?
I asked about Halloran and where he sees him. There were also other questions. I can't remember who asked, but there were questions surrounding Adelaide's ability to get into positions, and
that was me. I asked him if he had done enough to attack down the left flank that Nikolai Tupler-Stanley was on.
And so he goes on this massive spiel about, we just don't score enough. We're not ruthless enough. Adelaide don't even get into relative positions of threat to be able to score or be ruthless. It's once Bernardo came on and you actually had someone who was willing to go at Nikolai Topor-Stanley. Nikolai Topor-Stanley was on roller skates. Meanwhile, I could imagine that Western United and the people at Western United are, patting themselves on the back for how much of a masterstroke the Nikolai Topor-Stanley decision at left back was. Looks like I'm accurate. Anyway. However,
just let me say, Bernardo looked good. Little positive.
Bernardo did look good, but it's also born of circumstance here because he was going at Nikolai Topor-Stanley.
Yeah, he's not going to get to run at Nikolai Topor-Stanley.
And so in comparison to the victory game, going at Jason Davidson, it was a different story.
Can I just say very quick? A lot of respect for Nikolai Topor-Stanley as a person and as a professional, and the example he sets. This is us talking about him as a left back.
He's don't get me wrong, good pro, fine.
Yeah.
But
he's never had speed.
No,
I don't. This game is on Adelaide. One, how they were able to allow Western United to get out on their right side so consistently. And fair enough, there were measures in place to kind of help Topor-Stanley in that respect, but Adelaide should be filtering possession and pressing him into oblivion, quite simply.
they should be absolutely ruthless in that respect, because I was losing my mind seeing how they were so symmetrical and allowing play to get out through Risdon and Lockie Wales continuously on their right side. It just boggled my mind. And then two, why are you not going at this guy? But at the same time, this is born of Adelaide's midfield just being this massive, caution and impracticality. Sorry, I'll let anyone else wants to jump in.
No, it's okay. Look, for me, as you said, Adelaide played right into Western United's strengths.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to play the way that you did against Western United, they're going to beat you 1-0 every single time. And that's what they've done to four teams in a row by just... See, the one thing that Western United want is they want you to go down the flanks. They want you to cross the ball. They want you to try and knock it in the middle, because they have got Leo Lacroix, who stands at 197 centimetres, and Tomoki Mai, who all day is going to clean up. And we saw it against City. We saw it against Brisbane. We saw it against Adelaide. They kept trying to cross it in. Early crosses, everything. It's not going to work. And I'll tell you what, Western United took their chance brilliantly. I've got to give it to Connor Payne. That was a really good finish. And I've got to give it as well to him for his form over the past couple of weeks. He's been better as a left winger. After the first couple of weeks, I thought he struggled a little bit. I still think his best football was as a wingback. And I think that as the season goes on, we may see, I don't know if we see him be as consistent playing as a left winger as the year goes on. But look, they're winning. I mean, they're winning and they're defending well. At the end of the day, we speak about outcome versus process. The process isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It's not amazing, but they're winning. And I still think as the season goes on, the proof will be in the pudding. I think against better sides, against teams who are actually going to be able to, offer different things, who actually attack their weaknesses. In that instance, when you see Nikolai Topor-Stanley on the team sheet at left back, why weren't they going for
this?
This
is the question I have. Like, which teams are actually going to be able to do this? We're almost now 6 weeks into the season, and it's not happening. The one thing about Western United, I will say, is how well they have, let's say, set themselves up defensively with Diamante, and are able to counteract what he's not giving a team defensively. Yes, how much of this is born of midfields not actually wanting the ball in the center, and so as a consequence, it does Western United's job for them and filtering them out wide, but they've been able to hide Diamante defensively. Yeah. And then when they go in front, they've been able to, they've been very organized, very compact. They've been able to absorb leads, and, going into and talking about game state, they did have the lowest average shot quality in the league, when they're in winning positions. So it's not for nothing.
Look, good luck to him.
I think the interesting point you mentioned. Sorry, go Nick. So I'll sit out. Go.
I was 100% not going to say anything interesting. Yeah. Good luck to him. I don't want to watch him. It's anytime Western United's not. You know how we're saying the Jets is box office? What is the opposite? Western United. I don't want to watch them at all. So I don't even want to see the highlights. No, it's not art house. It's a shitty 6-second video someone shows you on their phone. No, it goes for a long time. It's got to bore you. 6 seconds.
It's
video. Anyway,
direct to DVD.
So it's like a Samurai Cop.
No, but that's rules. That rules.
What about Cats? That movie no one ever saw. But remember, Cats was one of the biggest failures of all time.
Cats was.
I just say.
Western United, the Big Bang Theory, they rate very highly in terms of box office numbers, but they're not a good TV show at all. All we
have to do is pipe in crowd noise, and it's the same as a piped in laugh track in Big Bang Theory.
Yes,
I would.
No, but look,
I would say no.
The one thing I want to say before I move on,
Joey.
I would just say Western United
Joey,
the Big Bang Theory, because the Big Bang Theory drew ratings.
Yeah, 100%.
That's
whatever.
Big Bang Theory was after.
Yeah,
I feel like we're avoiding talking about this team. Good.
Adelaide, you know what? We should be talking about Adelaide, though. Adelaide, this is a badly coached team, and now with this Yengi injury that looms over them, how Viet is going to respond to that is going to be riveting viewing. Like, it's going to be riveting in the same way that a car crash is riveting viewing. But this next month for Adelaide will be very interesting.
You know, it's not riveting viewing.
They play
the base of that Adelaide
say,
midfield.
Bro,
they play Wellington on New Year's Day, and I reckon they might get a win there.
Isaias and Juan de at the base of midfield is death. It's the funniest thing about this is there's been so much hype around Adelaide playing Dorigo, and at the first instance, Dorigo is see you later. You're on the bench, mate, because we're going to go with two grandfathers at the base of midfield. And like Goodwin after games, saying the things that he believes a leader should say. There's only one player who actually has any kind of independent thought on the pitch, and that's Halloran. And Viet has to figure out a way to play Bernardo and Halloran both.
So I played Ben Halloran as the centre forward.
Maybe might not be optimal, but it would be better than what is currently being out there. Let's say, but playing Blackwood, and then at the same time, Viet in the press conference saying, "Oh, I want a 9." It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, an individual that should be playing in the midfield for them is currently playing left back for them.
Yeah, I don't agree with that one.
You just don't think he should be playing at all, do you?
No, he left back suits him. Left back suits him. Like Cavala's not a midfielder.
One little thing I want to say, because my internet cut out as I was saying about the Big Bang Theory. I think the only thing as well that adds to the Big Bang Theory is Western United's Pyro pre-game, because that is a big bang, and I've got to give it to him. Pyro is the highlight of my work week. Come in, put the hands up every time like
Kevin Nash.
Yeah, the thing is, I need a clip pulled up, but I don't know how, and Stole's going to refuse to pull up the Kevin Nash Pyro entrance.
Wait, is Kevin Nash Steve Nash's brother?
Come on, man. Have you seen Magic Mike? Have you seen Magic Mike?
I haven't seen Magic Mike.
Have you
seen Kevin Nash in Magic Mike?
Yeah.
Wow. Big sexy in Magic Mike.
He's like Tarzan.
All right.
No, have you seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
No. I've seen him Mbappe, and he looks like one. That's it.
The longest yard.
I've seen the longest yard. Yeah.
He's in the longest yard, yeah.
He's one of the prison guards. He's the
one
guy
who takes the estrogen.
Yeah, they replace his steroids with estrogen.
Yeah.
Anyway,
guys, an hour and 22 minutes in to this podcast, and we're
discussing Kevin Nash as we
longest yard and some wrestling. This is over. This pod is done. If anyone's still listening, it's time to go. Robinson, it's time to go. Listeners, it's time to go.
If you're on Twitter, give Kevin Nash a follow. He's a fantastic follow.
Are we going to have fixture predictions?
Yes, I will bring up the fixture and we will go through it now. Ante, I will just pencil you in as under 2.5.
Under 2.5.
Yeah, there we go. Listening to last week's, and it's just every game under 2.5.
Sorry, I did say Mariners would win. Actually, thank you.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so...
but I did say Newcastle would win too. I did say Newcastle would win too.
Okay, so first game that is coming up for me on Google, it's a bit of a screwed up rounds because Saturday is Baby G's birthday. So on Sunday, December 26th, Boxing Day, 5 p.m, in the Hunter, Newcastle Jets versus Western Sydney Wanderers. It's the Robinson revenge game. Who wins?
Joey, you're missing... Oh, wait, no, that game got postponed. I just saw Adelaide Perth, so my fixtures are screwed.
I'm a professional.
Manita.
Yes, what's your prediction?
5-0.
Sorry,
5-0.
Who's actually going to rip out the Manito, in that case?
That's gonna be... Is it a Yerman? Matty Yerman. Yerman was at Wanderers. Yerman was at Wanderers as well. Just a little one to Robinson. Thank you, mate.
All right, so Stoll is going 5-0 Jets. Other Nick DeBarno, what's the score going to be?
It'll be brutal, but it won't be that as brutal as that. I think 3-1, and I think that it'll be a stage where Jets go 2-0 up, Wanderers get one back, and then at the end, Becker rubs a little bit of extra salt in the wound, makes it 3-1, and I don't know if Robinson will be there post the new year.
I've just got Newcastle winning. I don't know how.
You know what? I'm going to go Newcastle 0, Western Sydney Wanderers 1. Not for any actual football, not for any football reasons, because from a narrative perspective, it would absolutely happen. Robinson shithouses a win, gets another few months in charge based on it, and Wanderers fans' pain continues. In the other Boxing Day game, Melbourne Victory versus Western United, the only team to have scored on Western United this season thus far, plays host to them at Amy Park. I think we're all taking the under
2.5.
Under 2.5 for this game.
Under
Okay,
1.5.
Okay.
Under 1.5.
No, it could be a 1-1 draw.
So Ante's going for a 1-1 draw.
No, look, I'll just say under 2.5. I don't know how it's going
Under
to
2.5. You know what? I'm going to say 1-0. I don't know who to. It's going to be 1-0. Nick
Stoll
Stoll is going 0-0.
The binoculars, 0-0.
0-0.
I get if we're going. So one's gone 2.5, one's gone 1.5. Is it possible to go 0.5? That situation.
you've got the 0-0 half time plus the result. Like,
you know what?
We got to take it to the Neds level, man.
I pray to God this is not the free-to-air game. I pray to God this is not the free-to-air game.
I actually think that Western United are going to win.
Well,
I think they're going to win 1-0. And
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Nick Stoll. If it's not the free-to-air game, the free-to-air viewers will be treated to the other game that night: Macarthur versus Sydney FC.
Okay, well, tough night for the viewing public.
Ringing endorsement of the R-League amends this podcast. It's so great.
Look, it's just probably those 4 teams. No, there's some other bad teams in there. Look, watch the Jets. The Jets box office, bro. That's it. That's all I watch. Jets. Jets and a couple of players.
You know what? We do crap on the A-League a little bit on this pod, but this is also a perfect example that with the right mates and the right environment, you can find enjoyment in anything. You can get your mates together and watch The Room, watch Samurai Cop.
Doesn't matter where you go, it's who you're with, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But also, the disappointing thing about this weekend, we get no pyro, and I am not happy about that for Boxing Day. So, Victory, bring out the pyro. Otherwise, there's going to be a very angry Italian in the media box.
Well, you'll take hold on a second. Platter and you'll like it.
So, we're going free-to-air with Victory Western United against the Boxing Day test. Oh, no, that will have finished by then.
That will have finished. That will have finished. Wow. Hopefully, we'll get a few thousand drunk Englishmen walking over to get their football fix.
Well, to be honest, they'll be out from the MCG very early when Australia gets them all out for under 100 in the first session. So, just keeping it blunt, Joey.
By the way, first time I'll ever feel
how's
sorry.
Italy's World Cup qualification?
Okay, next fixture, guys.
Don't go there.
Okay, next fixture. I didn't get my prediction from Macarthur versus Sydney FC. Macarthur 1, Sydney 0.
Under 2.5.
Very good. Very good.
Sorry, I didn't give my prediction either.
I'd say I don't think anyone did. Sydney FC 1, Macarthur 0.
1-1.
Okay, Central Coast Mariners versus Wellington Phoenix. I've got the Mariners winning 2-0.
Under 2.5.
1-1.
I'm gonna go 2-1 Mariners.
And then on the Monday evening, coming off their very long break, Brisbane Roar versus Melbourne City. That game is up in the Sunshine State.
Over 2.5.
Ooh. I will go Brisbane 2, Melbourne City 1.
Brisbane 1, Melbourne City 3.
I don't know why.
I'm going Melbourne City 3. I think they're going to do well against Brisbane.
I think
Sucks.
to think about my prediction, I think Melbourne City will outshoot Brisbane by a 3 or 4-1 margin, regardless of what the result is.
Based off in history, if you even include the first week, Brisbane have always been a good matchup for Melbourne City. Like they have always played, like the last 4 meetings, Warren Moon v Kisnorbo. As much as City have won, I think 2 of the 4, and there was a draw in there and something else.
Share as well.
They've always given them some problems. I think this will be a 2-2 draw.
I am intrigued to see what happens with if Moon sticks with the 4 at the back against City and how it would alter how they approach them and how they can get out defensively or get out in transition against them, which has been a thing that they've been able to do against City specifically because they do have those wide outlets. So that's why I'm thinking there's going to be goals in this one. Because
storyline watching this one too. If Lecky comes back into the starting lineup, advantage Brisbane. And if it's Lecky in the boot, so make that clear. Lecky in the boot, McLaren in the middle. Vantage on Brisbane.
Harsh to drop Tilio off the back of that.
I think it'd be so hard.
That was actually the one thing that really struck me about the Kisnorbo presser last night. When I asked him about Tilio, you could tell that he was about to be positive, but then thought, I have to temper myself right now. Watch it back.
Same thing with the Atkinson question.
Like he like status and hierarchy matters in football, and coaches don't, at least here, coaches are reticent to really mess with that.
Okay, so we are now in injury time in the 92nd minute of action. Quick A-League women's comment. Won't go into it much because my buddy Teo's not on the pod, so we can't spend some time talking about it. But I will say at this stage, a few weeks into the season now, I feel that with the ACL injury to Kayla Morrison at Melbourne Victory, Sydney FC have now assumed the mantle of favourites for the Premiership and Championship until such time as Melbourne Victory can prove that they can figure things out without the presence of Morrison at the back. They're playing Kyra Cooney-Cross as a 6 at the moment to also help incorporate Alex Chidiac into the side.
You're not buying CFG stock?
I'm buying CFG stock. I still have them finishing 3rd, which is a lot higher than most people have them finishing, to be honest. But I think Sydney FC have assumed the mantle of favouritism. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens when Jeff Hopkins is able to start Lynn Williams and Alex Chidiac and Kyra Cooney-Cross in the same game, how he deploys all of those, and then how he adjusts when Lynn Williams departs as the season goes on. And I think basically also the race for 4th. Pretty.
Shout out to the doctor. Shout out to the doctor making her first start since giving
you
birth.
do love to see it. And also shout out to.
Do you guys think Cooney-Cross is a 6? By the way,
No. I don't think she I was saying this during while we were watching it on Saturday. She's got a bit of the like Frankie De Jong, Paul Pogba, like Kovacic spec about her. Like she doesn't have a position in midfield. She's just like midfield passer, doer thinger person. Like she doesn't really fit anywhere. And that's not just with Cooney-Cross, but it's also the case with Fowler. And but they run a lot as well. So, they'll be fine with Tony G, man. Like it's going to be very interesting, specifically with Cooney-Cross over the next 2 to 3 years to see how she adjusts playing in like that position and whether she can actually adapt to it.
It will be interesting to see that when she does eventually move over to Europe and she's not being coached by somebody who has one of his KPIs as getting the most out of her, he or she, has one of their KPIs as getting the most out of her, just what role she is given and how she functions in that role. Also, quick shout out to Perth Glory's women's side. They are now about to enter a bit of a hell stretch for them as well. All appearances seem to be that they will play Adelaide in the new year and then head to a Sydney hub. which I think we could all acknowledge that hubbing as a women's team is a bit of a different thing to hubbing as a men's team. For a start, a lot of the Perth Glory women's players, to enter a hub will have to get time off work, or will have to get time off school and all of that sort of stuff. So I guess that segues perfectly into my article plug for tomorrow in The Guardian about how we need to stop talking about women's FFA Cups and expansion and just hurry up on getting a proper full-time program for women if we actually want to develop that side of the game. There you go. I think that is TNC's A-League Women's Analysis, the Far Post podcast. Eat your heart out with your tall Novocastrians and whatever the hell else you talk about. Kid, friends of the pod. But I think that is after 95 minutes, we can begin to wrap things up. You have been listening to the National Curriculum Podcast, where our opinions will become your opinions in 2 weeks' time. Tonight, on today's episode, it has been Nick DeBarno.
That's been me for 4 years now. So.
it has been Nick DeBarno. Nick Stoll.
I'm going to say Modric is the best player in the world. Never.
I'm trying to get through this. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. Nick DeBarno, Nick Stoll, Ante Jukic. My name is Joey Lynch. That was the National Curriculum. Same time next week. Download us on Apple. Download us on Spotify. Repeat us several times. Tell your friends. Let's get us up there. Let's do this. Peace and love. And Merry Christmas.